And unfortunately, I have to say a couple words before we get going, but I'll be quick. My name's Lila. I'm your event host tonight. You met Reagan at the door. Let us know if you have any questions. We obviously work here and can help you with anything tonight. Thank you for being here and supporting your locally owned independent bookstore. It's a really big deal. Yeah. It's with your support and purchases that we can bring really cool events like this to the bookstore, and we can have awesome authors like Stan join us. So if you haven't yet purchased your copy, you can pick one up from the desk at the top of the stairs. Just remember to pay for it on your way out, please. Like I mentioned, your purchases matter a lot. At this point, please turn off anything that vibrates or rings, just so we can keep it smooth in here. I'm first going to introduce Kristie. Here we go. Paper. Kristie Choi is an editor for Athenium Books for Young Readers, an imprint of Simon & Schuster. She works on a range of young adult and middle grade novels, picture books, graphic novels, and select nonfiction. The books she's edited have won numerous accolades, awards, and hit bestsellers lists. She lives in Denver with her partner and 3 cats, and in her spare time she loves hiking and exploring the hot springs in Colorado, which I might need some recommendations for. That sounds great. And Kristie obviously is going to be in conversation with Stan Yan. Another paper. Okay, yeah. Stan is an award-winning first-generation American-born Chinese, Denver-based writer, illustrator, caricature artist, and instructor. He is currently the co-regional advisor for the Rocky Mountain chapter of the Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators, RMC SCBWI, for our acronym lovers, and is a co-founding instructor of the online kid-lit art school, theCuttlefishAcademy.com. Yeah. His work was the grand prize recipient of the 2022 SCBWI-FL Conference Portfolio Excellence Award, and his debut late middle grade graphic novel, The Many Misfortunes of Eugenia Wang, was published by Athenium. Simon & Schuster input. So, take it away, you all. So excited to have you here.
So I think we're going to start with a reading before we do our conversation. So I know that this is a little bit small and hard to read. But if you got a copy, you can read along. Otherwise, hopefully you can make out where I am in the story here. So I'm going to start in chapter 2, just to kind of keep this tight. There's a lot of things I hate about PE. I hate how the shorts ride up my butt like a string on a joke. All I wanted for my birthday was to go to that art camp. At least you get a B at your birthday, Jeannie. Almost burn your house down once, and suddenly I'm a pariah. Jeez. You know, my mom would freak out. You know what? Why don't you throw me a birthday party at your house on the 4th? Then you can come. That sounds awful non-compliant for the Jeannie I know. I like it. Hey, you're up, Jeannie. I hate how smelly the gym is, but most of all, I hate the rope. You got this, Jeannie. The only thing I like about PE is Keisha. Go, Jeannie. Well, her and Enrique Kelly. Go, Jeannie. Go. Keisha's always pushing me to talk to him. Maybe I will one day. Go, go, go. Yeah, Wang, go. Go, Eugenia. Hurry up. Yeah. Just get off and let us go. No worries, Jeannie. Stay put, and I'll just climb around you. Thank God for Keisha. Hey, there ain't supposed to be more than one of you weirdos on the rope. Ladies, only one on the rope at a time. Eugenia, why don't you get off? Jeannie, if I host, you gotta invite Enrique. OMG. The only thing that could make this worse is, whoa, oh no! Clock. Eugenia, can you hear us? Squeeze! Huh? Bark, bark, bark! What is it, Peanut? Fire? Crash. Back door, I can save myself. Crash. Crash, crackle. Whoosh. I'm not on fire? Kelvin Jim's summer art, or comic summer art summer camp. Learn to draw comics from the award-winning best-selling graphic novelist. So if you don't know what that is about, you'll just have to find out in the book.
Because that was actually part of the sample pages that first came to me. One of the first scenes I read from this book when it had been out on submission as a proposal and it hadn't been turned into a full-on book yet. This was over 3 years ago, because I don't know how many of you know, but making a graphic novel takes a long time and a lot of hard work. So Stan and I have been working together on this book for about 3 years
Yeah,
now.
I mean, you first got the submission from us at the beginning of 2022, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I know we went through like a couple of revise and resubmits before you guys like pulled the trigger and made it official.
Yeah, so needless to say, this book has undergone a lot of evolution and it's changed over time, even before it got to my desk. So
Yes.
I think something that we're all curious to hear is, going back to the start, what was the inspiration for this story?
So for me, I actually just wanted to write and draw a scary comic because I felt like of all the scary comics I'd read, none of them really spooked me the same way as movies and novels did. And I thought, there's gotta be a way. So that was just kind of a challenge for myself. And as I thought about like scenes and that really kind of spooked me from books and from movies, one of the things that they all had in common was there was almost always a child involved. And so I'm like, okay, I need to make my protagonist a child, and in that way, it accidentally became a children's book. So I didn't really go into it with that intent, but that was the inspiration.
Yeah, and I know that it's taken on a lot of different forms over time, and I remember you mentioning that it had started as slightly different from what we see now. So can you tell us a little bit more about how it evolved over time?
Yeah, so originally it was a story called Olfactory Memory, and the main character originally was named Morty Rose, so there's no Chinese culture in it at all. And then it was set in 1981 as well. And then, but then I had been doing school, I had already come out with my picture book, which was called There's a Zombie in the Basement, inspired by my son's fear of my zombie artwork. And and I even named the character after him, but I did not draw him to look like him. I drew him as a white ginger-headed kid, and then I started reading a bunch of books by authors like Eugenia Wang, Grace Lin, Kelly Yang, Lisa Yi, and I began to wonder, well, why didn't I? And as I did a little bit of soul searching, the uncomfortable answer to that was I had never thought of it. It just never crossed my mind. But as I reflected on what books were available to me in my school library growing up, the only book I could remember that had Chinese characters in it was The Five Chinese Brothers, which didn't really make me feel very good about being Chinese. And I started to worry that what I did in this book maybe was kind of perpetuating a problem of and so it was really important for me as I was working on this story to mine my own history and my own family a little bit more. And so I decided to make Morty Rose Morty Chen, and the characters were much more based off of my family. And then I actually ended up taking this manuscript to during the pandemic to the SCBWI summer conference and getting a manuscript critique with an editor with the main goal of trying to get them to request a full manuscript from me. And so I ended up getting a manuscript critique with Melissa Manlove, who's going to be at our fall conference, actually, on our faculty this year. And she had some really great feedback, which at that time, I probably didn't think it was so great. She's like, I think you need to make this contemporary. I think there's too many things going on. And then in the process of rewriting it, I also decided, so I made it contemporary, and then I also made it, got rid of the smell part of what she called a superpower. And, but there still had to be a way for my main character to get into these visions of impending doom. And so I'm like, well, maybe I can make her into a comic artist like myself. And so she's documenting these visions, and things start happening that she doesn't remember doing. So is she automatic drawing, or is some supernatural power changing her comics without her permission? I don't know. And then it became scary to me again, because in the process of writing the original story, I liked the story, it just wasn't scary to me anymore. But a lot of these little things in the rewrite, and it was proof to me that I should be open to editorial feedback. not just yours.
Yes, those are good words of wisdom in general. Well, we covered a lot with that, and I think, first of all, I'm curious how Milo feels now about the inspiration behind your creative journey. But also, I know we have some of Stan's family members in the audience, and I think that you bring up a great point. You mentioned that you're really inspired by your family in creating the story, and I think it'd be great to hear more about that.
Yeah. I mean, anyone that knows me probably doesn't have to look too far to know that the relationship between Eugenia and her mom is probably not that unlike, the conflict between my older sister and my mom when she was a teenager. Now, granted, the part of Eugenia that draws comics is me, so she's kind of an amalgam of the both of us. William, the pesky little brother, is probably me.
That was going to be my other question in terms of which character you relate with most, because I do know that there's bits and pieces of you throughout the story.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard for me to say that I relate the most to anyone other than Eugenia, just because I've done a much deeper dive on her character and her motivations and what she wants out of life than any of the other characters. So I would have to say her, but maybe Peanut as well. Peanut is kind of her emotional proxy, like when she can't speak up for herself, Peanut is the character that's like, well, I know you're upset, so I'm going to bark on your behalf.
Yeah, and Eugenia blaming her Peanut's farting on that was a funny joke. But I know that you almost didn't include Peanut either, so how did you end up deciding to add him in? Because I think he is a fan favorite. He's definitely one of my favorite characters with how derpy he is.
Yeah, because like when it was olfactory memory, there was no family pet. And so as I was rewriting it, I felt like, I almost feel like every story can benefit from like a Jiminy Cricket type character, something that is almost a little bit of the comic relief, or something that, like when no one else is listening, your pet will always listen to you, right? So,
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it really depends on what kind of pet you have.
And you're also a dog lover, and I know you've had dogs throughout your life, so is Peanut based on any of those dogs?
Only by name. We grew up with a dog named Popcorn, and I always thought it would be funny to have another dog along with him named Peanut, and they could be like the Cracker Jacks gang, And so that's how I named the dog. But otherwise, like all the dogs that we've had since are large dogs that are very mellow, like greyhounds.
I see. Kind of the opposite.
So it's kind of the opposite of Peanut, although Peanut's old, so Peanut is a lot more sedate than I'm sure he was many years earlier in his life.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like Peanut was a part, like, there's definitely so many funny moments throughout the book, but Peanut is definitely, there's a lot of visual and, written humor throughout this whole story, and that's one of the things that really captured me from the start was like, wow, this balances the scares, the suspense, heart, and humor. I'm really curious, how do you come up with your jokes?
I don't know, to me it just comes very naturally, because I think when I was growing up, my main influences were comic strips. And so when I started drawing my own comics, I also ended up, having to write something that has a punchline within 3 or 4 panels.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was kind of how I cut my teeth in this medium, was with very short form comics. So, and that never leaves me. Like whenever I'm actually writing anything, or even just having conversations with people, I'm always thinking of what would be a funny and not expected response for something.
Mm-hmm.
And so as I'm writing through these scripts, I try to think of my characters and who they are, but I also try to think of, who they, what their, brand of humor is as a character, and how they would respond to something. So like William's way of responding to something is way different than Keisha's, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
Keisha's a little snarky. She grows up in a family that is very much like I envisioned from my friend Andy's family, being very sarcastic. I didn't understand sarcasm when I became friends with Andy, but hanging out at his house, I kind of learned that, and I envisioned Keisha's family as a lot like their family was.
All right. Keisha is also one of my favorite characters. Who is she based off of?
I don't know, really, to be honest with you. I think Keisha is kind of like who I wish I was.
Making robotics.
Yes,
Yeah.
Being a little bit more
A little
outspoken
clumsy.
and not caring about what other people thinks about what she says. She's definitely someone that has a very little filter.
Yeah. And I think the great thing about all these characters is they all are very distinct, not only in personality, but also in terms of the visual. So I'm curious what your process is like for designing all the different characters.
So for me, there's this thing called shape language. When you're creating characters, the shapes also communicate things. So like when I'm doing character designs, like Mom, she's very stern and sharp-edged. And so I use like a rectangle for her head, which has got sharp edges to it.
Mm-hmm.
And so it kind of reflects her personality, whereas some of the other characters that are a little bit more, rounder or have softer personalities. So like I feel like Eugenia outwardly has a softer personality, or is known to be so coming into the story, but obviously she's got a journey that's happening. So I made her character design out of more ovals and rounder shapes, and even her posture is a little bit more inward shaped. Like she's not very confident with herself coming into the story, so she's growing into that as the story goes along.
It's also very much in line with her artistry, where the creatives are often hunching over their desks.
Yeah. So I haven't been always known to have the best of posture. I remember my mom always criticizing me about slouching.
Yeah. And I think something that makes Eugenia so relatable are those like little touches, but also like she's aspiring to be a creative in this conflict that's so, I think, universal in especially amongst immigrant families, of wanting to be an artist and pursue something creative,
right?
But also having to go up against some of the challenges of what immigrant families have gone through.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, like, what your own experience with that.
I don't think I had any, pushback on pursuing my creativity myself. But by the same token, I don't think I ever realistically considered pursuing it as a career. And when I went to college, I actually studied probably the polar opposite of that, which was accounting.
Quite opposite.
Fortunately for me, I'm both left and right brain, so I I feel like I could still excel in some of the more logical aspects of things like accounting, but if you were to actually look at my breakdown of my GPA, that was actually the worst part of my GPA, was my accounting grade. But all my electives were spent in the art school, so you know, my true passion was still there.
You were doodling when you were supposed to be doing your math homework?
No, I was doodling during psychology class.
Okay.
So I was drawing pictures of my professor as his name was Professor Buckman, and I made my friend Adriana laugh because I drew him as Teddy Ruxpin, so I called him Teddy Buckman.
Well, speaking of drawing characters, Stan is going to do a demo where you all get to be involved and help him come up with a character.
Yes. So you guys have to give me like personality traits and things about my character that I'm going to reflect in this character design. So here, let's see if I can unlock my iPad and we'll share it to the screen.
Susan.
7.
7 years old.
Okay.
All right, that's a good medium. Yeah.
All right.
What type of personality does Susan
that was
have?
what I was going to ask next.
I got a hand right here.
Loves cats.
Loves cats.
Loves to read and do math.
Loves to read and do math. Math. Okay,
Reads.
that's well rounded.
And math. Okay. All right. I think that's a good starting
We can't
place.
forget the cats.
Yes. Oh, cats. Yes, cats. There we go. All right. So let me go ahead and. So if I'm doing a young character, I'm going to make them proportionally a little bit shorter. So, you know, I have this amount of space, no matter whether this is an adult or a child. So how do I make it look more childish? So I'm going to make the head a little bit bigger proportionately than I would for an adult. And in fact, let's see, so loves cats, loves to read, and math. So I think we should draw this character reading. So again, maybe they're walking while they're reading a book or something like that.
Yeah,
That
all
might be
right.
kind of fun.
What is Susan's favorite color? Hand in the back? Purple. Purple is the favorite color.
Okay. Purple.
Anything else we should know about Susan?
Loves to run.
Loves to run.
Oh,
And
maybe
loves
they're
math.
running, not walking, which is not safe while you're reading.
Oh, got another hand there. She's a redhead?
Okay.
Okay. Going back to ginger hair.
So how are we going to make it look like she's running? Well, let's have her have a braid that's trailing behind her, and then younger eyes will be a little bit further down, but she's also reading, so that's going to also make her face be a little bit tilted down a little bit. And then she's got a cat, right? Maybe here, let's move her a little bit. That's the great thing about drawing digitally. But maybe the cat is just hanging out on top of her head.
As cats tend to do.
So she doesn't mind either, though. This is what we call a symbiotic relationship, right? All right, so let's go ahead and start with this. And then let's go ahead and make this, I'll go ahead and commit some of this to ink here. So I think the good thing will be to start with the cat. The cat doesn't really seem that bothered by the fact that she's running somehow.
Oh, this looks a lot like my cat now.
Maybe the cat's even a little bit happy about this.
What's the cat's name?
Luis.
Luis.
Louise.
Alright, Luis looks a little like a gremlin, which is very cat-like.
There we go. And how are we going to reflect that in this drawing? Maybe this book is about a character named Luis. How would we spell Louis? Just like Louis?
L-U-I-S.
The ninth. If it's a cat, you know, you gotta have 9 lives, right? Alright, so let's add some fingers. And maybe the cat is what's making her safe while she's running and reading at the same
Yeah,
time.
having a little bit of a supernatural in here would be good.
Have a bit of a ratatouille moment.
Ratatouille.
Right.
It's really the cat who's in control there.
Catatouille.
That could be another book.
Thanks for the idea. Who do I need to credit for this? Myself. I don't know, does she look 7 or does she look a little bit older than that? She might look a little bit older.
It's about 7.
I'll give her a little poochier cheeks then.
And
And we'll give her like a kind of a turned up nose as well.
Stan, how do you feel about answering questions?
Oh yeah,
Some
I can
questions
answer
while
some
we do
questions
this?
while I'm drawing if you like.
Yeah, so
That way I can color it in and make sure to incorporate purple in here.
well, if anybody has any questions for Stan or me, now is the time. Over there.
How do you decide how far to go with the horror part of the story for children?
The horror part of the story for children. Stan, do you want to tackle that first?
Yeah, it's whatever Kristie will let me do.
I will say within a middle grade age range, which for this book and very generally is about 8 years to 12 years old, it really is a matter of where there's a lot of variation within the genre of, it can get really spooky sometimes to the point where I get freaked out and I need to cuddle in a ball for a little bit for some of the middle grade horror that I've worked on. But ultimately, the story is always going to reach a safe ending where kids are going to feel like, all right, it's really scary, but eventually it's going to be okay. And I know that it's going to be okay. So sometimes that's kind of like a general rule of thumb to go by. And I've seen some things get really spooky and other things, you know, it feels like it's scary, but not too scary in the sense like nobody's going to get dismembered. Nobody's gonna, there aren't going to be like deaths happening on the page. You're not going to see as much gore. And thankfully, I think the beautiful thing about a book like this is it doesn't rely on gore or blood to convey the scary parts. It's really about the psychological horror, like, oh my gosh, something bad might happen, and I have to figure out a way to stop it, and I don't know if it's going to happen or not. There's a lot of anxieties that I think a lot of tweens actually experience through the scariness in this book. And I think I saw a hand up from up front here. What was your question?
My question was, how do you know, like, what to do and what to write all the time?
How do you know what to do and what to write all the time?
I don't. That's why I have critique partners, a bunch that are here, wonderful critique partners. A lot of trial and error. I like my earliest memories of holding a pencil was of me drawing the same stick figure over and over, doing different things in boxes that I later found out were called panel borders. And so I was doing comics before I realized it. So I was always a storyteller. So you just can't stop me from doing it. Now, whether or not I'm doing it right, or I think that's really depends on my readers, which is what I'm really kind of addicted to, because my earliest comics were really based on my college friends and were really meant just to make them laugh. But But you know, they were just like these saddle stitched, Xerox copied black and white comic books. But I started selling them at these comic swap meets, and people were buying them, which first of all was surprising, and then second of all, they were coming back and telling me how much they liked them, and that unsolicited feedback was a little addictive. So that's kind of really how I judge my work. So being able to have early readers to, you know, make sure that you're on the right track with your story is helpful. So whether that be your parents, your wife, your kid, or your critique group, if you've got some friends, they're all valuable in the process.
That's great advice. I'm also curious, it's a great question in terms of how do you come up with the actual ideas for your short? Does it start as just like a concept and then you kind of go with that, or is it a character that you come up with first?
Yeah. So I mean, my process has evolved over time. So it used to be that I'd just come up with a funny joke, like a comic strip, and I'd write them down, and then I'd have to like figure out, you know what, this would be a lot funnier if I could put all these in the same story. So can I shoehorn all of these jokes into the same character's life, into the same chronology? That's how I used to write. But then more recently, my process has evolved to really kind of just thinking about unusual characters, unlikely characters. Like, so when I'm doing school visits, I always talk to kids about like a vampire who's afraid of the dark, or that gets queasy at the sight of blood, or something like that. And that's like a great way to start a character, so you can think about what their motivation is. Sometimes it just writes themselves as well. But once I've got like a cast of interesting characters and I've decided who's going to be the protagonist and what they're going to be motivated by, the next thing I got to think of is like a conflict of some sort. An ultimate conflict, maybe, but you know, I try to like sum it up in a sentence or two, what's called a log line, where you've got clear stakes for the character, maybe a setting and some window dressing. It's what you call an elevator pitch. So if I'm like, oh, there's Kristie, and she just got in an elevator, and I run in, and I'm like, I'm gonna pitch her this story, and I've only got 60 seconds, and that's what it is. And that's really the best place to start, because that's kind of the foundation of the story. And if that doesn't work, then it doesn't matter what I build on top of it. It's probably not going to work very well. And my friend Kaz here teaches a great class for the Cuttlefish Academy called the Hook Plot Pitch. So if you want to learn really how to do that, that's a great class to take.
All right. I think for any aspiring writers or creatives in this room, that's actually often what I tell authors as well, and that often it doesn't really matter how you get there, but eventually you're going to want to figure out who your character is, what they want, and what's keeping them from getting what they want. So anybody else have any other questions? Matt?
What was the moment you read the first proposal that you were like, oh, I want to book this book?
The moment when I first read this proposal that I realized I wanted The Many Misfortunes of Eugenia Wang. I will say the sample pages really caught me in that in a very short amount of time, Stan's writing and art together showed me like, oh wow, I immediately know who this character is. I get a sense of their personality just through that dialogue and through like the narrative boxes. The art too was something that felt like, wow, this feels different, and it's really lovely, and the characters look so fun. So all of that together. As Stan mentioned, we went through some revise and resubmits, which essentially meant that before I could tell my publisher, hey, we need a publish list, we had to go through some revisions first, which meant streamlining the plot and the synopsis. That's something that I feel like, for me, that's something I really enjoy as an editor, so it was just really fun to get to do that with Stan, and he was so open to feedback too. So I think like with Stan, he's really good at revising. I think that's often times what I see is like the difference between like things I'm actually able to sign up and not, and that how well can this person revise and get something to where it needs to be.
So that's the process of She loves killing all of my darlings. That's the part.
He was willing to let me.
Because she was right. But for those of you that ended up getting an email from me with the PDF of my outtakes, they get to see all of the stuff that you cut out anyway.
The thing with, I think, creators like Stan is that he knows that he could come up with something better. And because of that, we're able to get it to a place where it gets more and more refined. Any other questions? Cats.
What's next? What are you working on? What's on the horizon?
I don't know, can we announce it here?
I mean, it's not been officially announced, but
Right.
I think it's fine to tell this.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for those of you that have been following my weekly comic strip, Peter Cadaver, and you've seen the website on the bottom, it says SalemCharterAcademy.com. That is our next project, Salem Charter Academy.
Perfect for fans of Wednesday. It's kind of like an anti-Hogwarts.
That's we want to make it very clear.
Very much so. Stan, how's the drawing going?
Oh, I don't know. What do you guys think?
I'm seeing a lot of purple. I see
Yes.
a smug little cat in
Yes.
control of the whole situation.
Actually, it looks like it's just having fun riding her right now. So.
Well, what do we think? Do we think that Stan nailed who this character is?
Yeah.
Is this Susan?
Close? Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's this Susan, not that Susan.
And what do we think, kids? Does Susan have like the right amount of clothes and accessories, or do we need anything else?
Tattoos.
Tattoos. Like stick-on tattoos.
Yeah, it's probably temporary tattoos. at
Temporary
this point,
tattoos.
right?
All right. What should the temporary tattoo be?
Cats.
More cats?
Cats,
Cats and math. So
Cats and, oh yeah, we forgot the math
we
part,
can
right?
combine that somehow.
Yes, okay, so let's see here. I'm gonna actually do it in a different color. So let's see, she likes purple. So let's make this a purple tattoo. And let's see here, how old was she again? 7? So let's make this 49. Okay. Square root.
I know how to
All
do
right,
that.
math nerds. And then we gotta have some cats, right? So here, let's add some more cats.
Maybe Susan can make a cameo in one of your next books, Stan.
Right? Maybe. Who's that tattoo kid?
Susan's one of the toughest kids.
Oh, yeah. Right. Oh, she doesn't have enough fingers for that. Here. Meow life. I bet you some of you are going to get this tattoo after we leave. Probably Erica, I think.
So Stan, do you have any other advice for any aspiring authors and or illustrators in the room?
I just say, find out what you're passionate about, because the only thing that you're guaranteed in this whole process is that you're going to be creating. And if you don't enjoy the creation process, there's no guarantee it's going to sell. In fact, it's probably going to harm your ability to sell it, because passion is going to show through in your project. So even if you're passionate about something, you have fun creating it, then at the very least, you had fun creating it. So, and that's the only thing that you can guarantee that for yourself that you're going to be able to do at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And it's sad if you're not having fun doing something that doesn't sell anyway.
It's true. You can't predict that, I will say. Did we cover everyone? Did everyone get their questions answered? Okay. I think we're ready for you to do some signings, Dan.
Okay, excellent. Well, thank you.